I'm going to talk about how to make change when you're working at the BYT shows. What I'm going to share can be used for flowers or concessions. I'm going to talk about flowers mostly because that's the area I work in. One of the first things you have to do is figure out how much a person owes for whatever they're buying. So I like to think, for the carnations, I like to think in terms of two carnations at a time. The carnations are $1.50 each, and so sometimes that can be a little confusing. The roses that we sell are $3, so that's pretty easy to add those up. But since the carnations are $1.50, I like to think of it in terms of two carnations at a time. So two carnations, these aren't carnations obviously, but we're just going to use those for my little props today. Two carnations will be $3, and then two more carnations would be another $3, so 3 plus 3 is 6. Other people have told me that what they do is they add up the number of carnations. So you have two carnations, and so that'd be $2 plus half of 2 is 1. So 2 plus 1 is $3. So it just depends on how you want to think about it. You pick whichever method works for you. So the next thing is, once a person gives you money for their purchase, then you have to figure out how much change to give them back. So let's just say a person buys one carnation, they give you $2. That's a really easy transaction. They just get 50 cents back. But let's say they give you $5 for that one carnation. So what you do is you start at, this is a $1.50, then you're going to count up to the amount of money the person gave you. So from $1.50, you count up, takes 50 cents to get to $2. And then from 2 to 5, you used to go, it's 3, 4, 5. And you count up to the amount of money the person gave you. And then just like I counted it out right now, that's how you count it back to the person. 50 cents makes 2, 3, 4, and 5. And when you count it back, then you know that you gave the correct change, and then the patron knows that you gave them the correct change as well. Okay? Now let's say that the person just bought one carnation, and let's say that they gave you $10 instead of $5. Okay? So you're going to use the same method. It's $1.50. 50 cents makes 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 makes 10. Again, you count up to the amount of money that the person gave you. Okay? Now let's say that the person buys 3 carnations. Okay? So here's our 3 carnations, and we know that's going to be $4.50 because it's $3 plus $1.50 is $4.50. Now let's say they give you $20 for those flowers. Okay? Here's our $20 they just gave us. Okay? So it's $4.50. 50 cents would make 5. 5 more would make 10. And 10 makes 20. Okay? So if you just keep thinking about counting up to the amount of money the person gave you. Okay? Now once we get the money, then what do you do with it? The $20 bills, what we do is we just stick them underneath the tray in the cash box because we don't usually use those. So it just keeps them out of the way. And then the 10s and the 5s, we like to we keep them up on the top part of the tray, but we put them underneath the $1 bills because the ones are what we use most often for change. Okay, one thing I did want to mention too is that when you get, like say, a 20 or a 10 or a 5, when you first get it, just tuck it underneath the cash box, just as a corner like that, because then if the wind blows, which it often does, it keeps the money from blowing away. And the other thing is that it reminds you how much money the person gave you. During intermission, it gets very, very busy, and sometimes it's hard to remember how much a person gave you. And so if you keep this $10 bill out, for instance, then it reminds you how much change you're giving. Okay? And once you give the change, just put the money right in the cash box. Okay, so just to kind of recap, when you're counting up how much a person owes, with the carnations, think of it in terms of 2 carnations at a time. and it'll be just a little bit easier. And then the second thing is to always count up to, from how much the person owes, count up to how much money they gave you. And with just a little bit of practice and making change, they'll get better at it.